Thank you for joining us in this episode of Legal Angle with Emmanuel the Law Olawale. I have a special guest with me today. He's a multi-talented artist. He's also an attorney. He's an author. In fact, he's just he has so many talents, But within the hour or whatever time we're going to spend on the show, you get to know who this guy is. His name is Jonathan Sparks. Welcome to the show, Jonathan.
Thank you so much, Manny. Really a pleasure to be here, and it's an honor. So yeah.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you too. Yeah, you are a man of many talents. I don't even know how to describe you because you don't even fit into one particular box. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. Yeah. I'm trying to bring back the old Renaissance man, ideal, like the gladiator in the back of your wall there. But yeah, I've been a musician all my life. I also grew up with entrepreneurs, so I've got a real soft spot in my heart for entrepreneurs, and a lot of the legal work that I do will be for entrepreneurs because they're like family to me. I'm also big into fitness, and I have some students in the fitness world. I've been hired as a life coach too, and a business coach. Uh, Doing business law, most of the time we get a lot of clients who have business questions. So I get to kind of see them from an intimate perspective, when they're really kind of hurting and in the thick of it. So it gives me a pretty good perspective on all of that.
Okay. And seeing you like you said, you're like the modern man. You're a musician, you're a fitness buff, you're a writer, you're an attorney. And how were you able to combine all this? What was your home life like growing up?
Um, it was a little chaotic, but I mean, uh, in a way that taught me a lot. I Like many people our age, I you know came from kind of a broken home. I didn't meet my father until I was 16. My bio dad. I had a I was It was just me and my mom until I was out of kindergarten, and then we moved in with my stepdad, who was a emergency medicine doctor um, when I was young, and he started his business right around that time, and I got to grow up with him, in that environment, in that world of professional services and working hard, and creating something out of nothing for you know for this business. And my mother was very musically inclined, still is, thankfully. And so, she kind of raised me around, drum circles and folk guitar singers, and, singer songwriters, and all of that. So I kind of picked that up when I turned 16.
Okay. When you were younger, did you realize that you this man that wouldn't fit into any kind of box that a guy with many talents?
Um, yeah, what did I, it's funny, man. When I first went to college, I had this roommate who was I think his name was Josh. And they're supposed to put you with a roommate in the dorm room that's a lot like you. And I don't know why they put me and this guy together, but he was very kind of like one. He fit like in one box. He was rushed for fraternity, and played sports, and that was kind of his whole thing. Nothing against sports or fraternities at all, but there was a lot more that I was doing. And we were going to sleep at one night, and he said, Sparks. We had this famous like argument. He said, Sparks, I just don't get you, man. Like, I just don't, like, you never smoke pot, but you always wear these tie-dye shirts, and you have long hair, and so you're kind of like a hippie, but you never smoke pot, and you're also like a really good student, but you're kind of like anti-establishment, and then like, and then you're definitely not a jock, but like you're great at sports, and and then you've got this musician thing, like I don't get you anywhere, and I was so proud of that, uh, you know, problem that he had with me. I was like, thanks, man. I take that as a huge compliment.
So in other words, you're like the fun nerd.
Yeah, he was upset about it a little bit, and I get out of all your boxes. I mean, in the words of Lauren Hill, I get out of all your boxes. Like, there's just no. We're all very diverse people, and all of us have multi talents, and it's we only have one life to live, so we ought to pursue it.
Exactly. And growing up, I know when you discovered that you have these many talents, what did you do to develop each of these talents? Because at some point, like just like at that, your friend said, most people will focus on one part of their talent, but you have been able to excel in many. Was that a problem for you, or was it something that you just grew into?
I was actually talking with my stepdad recently, and I realized that all of the different things that I was doing sort of overlapped and trained me, about different things. So, um, I had this pivotal day. Okay, so it was like spring break, and my friend Lucas and I were, we had the break together at my house, and we were so bored. It was like 3 or 4 days in, and we were just so bored, and we were just sick of it. So we spoke with my stepdad, and I'll never forget it. He sat us down and he said, "All right, well, what do you want to do?" Right? And we were like, "Well, I really want to like ride bikes to the Dairy Queen and like get a Happy Meal type thing. I really want to go swimming. I really want to like spend time in the Ford and like play this board game." And we used to play poker back then. We'd like gamble with potato chips because we thought that was the type of the chips that you use. But anyway, we took all of these things, and he said, "Okay, great. How much time do you want to spend doing each of these things?" And we said, "Okay, an hour swimming in the morning and another hour at night, and an hour going to do this." And we just blotted it out. And he's like, "Okay, cool. So let's put each one of these things onto a list, and this is going to be your daily goal." Okay. So that day, I mean, I think it was like 8 or 9 in the morning. So we plotted it all out, and we like followed the clock, right? And we did this, every little thing that we wanted to do. And I'm telling you, Manny, at the end of that day, that night, we were so exhausted, like happily exhausted, because we had utilized ourselves and like, it in these ways that we really wanted to do. And we just lived that day the most from any day prior. And that really stuck with me. It really made an impression. So now I realize that, I kind of do that every day. And that's how I learned. I learned it from dad. And if I have a vision board. I have goals, and I just track it back years in advance, and then it's just a little bit every day that I do. And that's that's the discipline, right? And that's the power. So
Hmm. It is the discipline and the power. Let's talk about your music. When you said you picked up music again at the age of 16, when did you first realize that you have this musical talent?
um I was I loved singing. I kind of grew up with my mom singing. She was a great folk guitar player, is a great folk guitar player. But we would, a lot of our bonding, when I was younger, was just us singing silly songs together and harmonizing and everything. So it was like home to me. um I played drums through elementary and middle school, and I actually tried to make a band in second grade. Our first cover song was going to be New Kids on the Block song. But we literally had a guitarist, and we're going to do 4-part harmonies. So 1989 or whatever it was. um but yeah, I'd been playing music most of the time. I didn't learn guitar until I met a girl and wanted to impress her. So I picked up the guitar and I played it every day until my fingers were like almost bleeding and really hurt. And I learned a song. I think I learned the first song overnight, and the rest is history. Then I went to guitar school later and learned music production and engineering and songwriting and the poetry of it all. And but yeah, that's it's just always been a very major part of my life.
Oh, that's awesome. And was she impressed? Did you get the girl?
I yeah yeah we dated for like 3 years. It worked wonders.
Well, I guess this was well worth it. Let's listen to one of your music and let's enjoy this. It's called Unwelcome Son.
My mama asked me when I was 5 to prove that men could be good. And I told her I would do everything that I could to show the boy she'd made wasn't unwelcome. She married a doctor, a man to satisfy grandma's plans, who never would let me in the family album. He showed me how to be a good man for all to see, but I had no business being me, for I was unwelcome. And I got so afraid.
Welcome back, Jonathan.
Wouldn't you know it, my internet went out right at the chorus.
That's fine. Yes, I was asking you what inspired that particular song on Welcome Son.
So much. I mean, it's I uh, I just wanted to kind of tell my story. I'd I've written a lot of songs, about other people trying to tell their stories, and I really I think that the impetus behind it was that I had created a home successfully, finally with that's welcoming, you know. So my house, and it's like it's a safe haven, and everybody there loves one another, and you're just whoever you are, like you're letting your freak flag fly. Like our uh, my fiance's son Elijah is he likes to wear like bright colored clothes, like, and he loves gold and silver and shiny stuff, and so he loves to run around with like rainbow stuff on, and I feel like some places might not, they might not like that or something. Where I grew up, it was kind of a difficult home at times, and I just wanted to express, I don't know, we all have a lot to pull from, right? We all made our decisions to survive whatever environments we were in, and yeah, I just wanted to tell it.
Yeah,
I didn't know we were. I'm sorry, I didn't know we were going to be talking about that song.
yeah, yeah.
But
I find this song to be very, very interesting. I thought it was autobiographical, and I thought that you are able to dig into your pain and make beautiful music out of it.
well, thanks, Manny. That means a lot. I mean,
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to accomplish with music. Is I think music gets to the heart with people. It's kind of a direct heart connection. Other things, regular communication, or transactional talk that you have with people, like at the grocery store or whatever, it's not so meaningful. And what I love about music is that you can really, connect with someone, and if you get vulnerable yourself, just thousands of other people they appreciate it, and they're vulnerable too, because you can only see in someone else what you already know and have in yourself. So I think music is very powerful in that way.
Yes. And with your music, you have a way of expressing yourself, like the one we just listened to, which is Unwelcome Song. It was as if you compact a whole memoir into the 2 or 3 minutes, and you were singing the lyrics from your soul. One can feel the essence of the story. And when I listened to it, I felt like, even though, we've met in person, I felt like I knew you more just from that short music. So by the time you were telling me about how your mom met the doctor, I had an idea.
Right. Yeah.
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 So
Well, I'm
so
really glad. I mean, did it resonate? I guess did it resonate with your story at all? Your history, or was it just?
yeah, it was more about me getting to know you. I'm more of a writer. Me, I express mine through poetry and just writing.
Uh-huh.
But I wish I could be as succinct as someone like you who can turn those stories into melodies,
Well, thanks. Yeah,
because that's
I'm
what you
speechless.
did.
I'm so glad you liked it. I mean, really, that means the world to me, and all of the efforts that I'm doing to pursue music as well as the law and everything else. That it's feedback like that really gives me energy, and makes me want to do more of it. So thank you.
Okay. Now let's talk about the practice of law. What inspired you to become a lawyer?
Oh yeah. Well, so I grew up in that entrepreneurial world, and I went to law school, and I immediately found out about all of these legal technologies that entrepreneurs just don't know about, and there's a if you don't know, you can't take advantage of sort of the elements of the game, right? Like if you're playing a board game, you want to be able to strategize, and you want to take advantage of the framework and game that system, right? But when people start out a company, they don't know what the game rules are. They might have a loose idea about it or understanding, but they don't really know what's possible. And my family and the other entrepreneur friends that we had, they would just effectively make mistakes, like things that were really easy to solve had they been proactive about it instead. So when I wanted to, start a law firm and hang out my shingle, it was a natural fit to just do business law, because there's so much, that I have to give to that business owner and entrepreneur, and came very naturally to me. I think entrepreneurs kind of talk differently. Like you're probably very risk tolerant if you're an entrepreneur, maybe too much. Like you're a little more optimistic than most people. um, you're probably very independent and like don't fit with authority as well as others, maybe. But those are the types that I know and love, and it was a natural fit for me and my practice. And I've always felt that there's not a lot of law firms out there that get along and like let your hair down and like connect with a business owner. I think lawyers tend to be kind of stuffy and you know uh, just cocky. I think business owners want an actual human being that's living, breathing, and kind of gets their life and what it's like.
So one of the things that pushed you into go into the practice of law and starting your own practice is the feeling of altruism, being able to help people around you who you've seen have fallen into errors because of the lack of knowledge.
Yeah, I mean obviously I get paid to do it, but you know it, if you're ever having trouble making money, I think it's just the answer is just to help people more, because there's probably something that you have that's unique to you, that you can help people with, and I don't know what that is precisely, but I knew when I started my firm, I knew I could help business owners a great deal, just because they didn't know. They don't know about these legal technologies that are out here that they can take advantage of. So, that was really my business model if you stripped it down to like a statement.
Thank you. And what made you decide to only represent mid-sized and small businesses?
Um, well, I came from a big firm. I worked at King and Spalding, which is like the top two or three firms in this area in Atlanta. Um, and we represented, Fortune 500 companies and, just mega corporations, like 50 billion, $500 billion, lawsuits like that. That was going on when I was there. So, um, but I realized that the problems that small and mid-sized firms have are actually pretty much the same problems as Fortune 500 companies. It's just very different numbers, which is to say that all companies have some kind of a need for business legal help and assistance, and advice. But small and mid-sized firms were just not getting it right. So if you don't have a lawyer, that's a friend, that's a go-to sort of just person that you can bounce ideas off of and, get advice from on the go, you're really setting yourself up to fail, right? I mean, either you take your product to market and you're gonna fail, anyway, so it won't matter, or you're successful and your product really takes off and does great, and then you didn't set yourself up to win from a legal standpoint, and someone else can take advantage of you, like on a technicality. We had a company a couple years ago, and it broke my heart. It really broke my heart. So they got some kind of form, like a partnership agreement. I think they got it from LegalZoom. It might have been Rocket Lawyer, but one of those online, legal service companies. And I think they paid like a couple $100. And it said it was a partnership for a tech company. And the tech company was easily worth $7 million when they spoke to me. Easily. But it said in the partnership agreement that they had signed like 3 or 4 years prior, when they didn't have any money coming through, that at any time the other business partner could buy out the majority business partner could buy out the other at what's called book value. So book value means just the hard assets that company owns. So, the book value of this 7 million company was probably 30 or 40,000, like if that, because there's a bunch of laptops and some, desks, and, that's it. That's all you got. So, you know, her business partner was threatening to implement this thing in this contract that, there was no reason that they should have that. Does that make sense? So it really broke
Yes.
my heart because, had that was effectively a $3 million or more loss that they were looking at. And had they hired any business attorney, in literally any business attorney, just not an online legal services, artificial intelligence company, it would have cost them like, maybe $1,000. I mean, it just really puts it in perspective that, those kind of things continue to happen, and small business owners, they just don't know. They don't teach you that stuff.
Mhm. Thank you. Does your musical talent intersect with your law practice?
When I first started, Manny, I thought that it would be a detriment. I think I was kind of ashamed of being a musician and all of this, and I thought that people wouldn't take me seriously as a lawyer. But that was all lies. If anything, I think it's made me a lot easier for people to talk to. They know that, I'm a multifaceted human being like all of us are, and, yes, I can give you great legal advice, but I'm also a human being, and I'm easy to talk to. It's not this. I'm not stuck up in some ivory tower and billing you out the nose, and like, we're not so formal. And some people don't like that. There are people out there that want to hire the most expensive lawyer, and they're emotional about it, and they're like, I just want to screw this guy and get him into the ground, and that's okay, that's fine, but like, that's not me. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try to save my clients money. I'm going to try to like tell it to them like it is, and sometimes there's legal cases that you really just need to walk away from, rather than spend $100,000 and a year or two's worth of stress and late nights and being mad at me for the costs. So
Yes. Yes, because you have the freedom of being yourself, and nothing makes you happier than just being who you are, and you don't let your potential client put you in a box. I can kind of relate to that.
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, you especially.
Yeah, prior to starting your practice, you worked for the Justice Department. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you did there?
um, yeah, I think it's public information at this point. So that was during the initial push for the bailouts for car companies. So, like, I think it was General Motors. Um, I don't know if you recall, but we had the market crash in 2008, 2009, and as part of that, there was a bailout program for major car manufacturing and sales companies. And as part of that humongous loan, I mean, at the time it was bigger than any kind of bailout we'd done. I think it was 300 or $400 billion to General Motors and a couple of other car manufacturers. As a reason for the loan, they said that you had to let go of some of the dealerships that were not profitable. So their business model is that you have a dealership that has to have X amount of cars and trucks like on the lot ready to be sold. So you have to buy these trucks even if you're not going to sell them. And so you just have all this inventory. And there were a lot of these dealerships that just did a terrible job at selling. So the government said, hey, we're going to give you this bailout money, but we need you to let go of some of your dealerships that aren't doing well. So the dealerships sued the government because they called it a taking based on the Fifth Amendment, which is a whole section of law. But it was really fun for me, to like research all of this stuff. So technically, the takings law started when people would the government would want to build a railroad, for example, and they'd want to build it over your property. So they would give you the fair market value for your property when they did a railroad. So they were saying that this was analogous to that. And I thought that was totally absurd. But they had a lot of highfalutin, really highly paid. I think some of the lawyers were making, $1,000 an hour. And, that was a lot of money. That was unimaginable to me back then. And, but yeah, we went to bat against them, and, we won the case. So we successfully defended our taxpayers from having to shell out a bunch of money to these dealership owners.
Wow. Congratulations.
Hey,
You also work for the Attorney General. What was
yeah,
that experience like?
that was eye-opening. Yeah, so that was the Department of Consumer and Regulatory Affairs. So it was public works, it was that was the public sector. And I'll tell you, man, I really wanted to go into politics. And then I worked there, and I spent some time on the Hill working for the Senate office. And after that, I did not want to go into politics anymore because it's not what I thought it was.
Yeah, because I also saw that you worked for the Senate office. Did you work for a particular senator, or was it?
Yeah, I worked for Senator Tom Udall,
Okay.
and I was basically the go-to helper for his legislative council. It was an internship, so it was during law school, but that didn't mean it was any less work. Like we had to really research these things on the fly, but we were working on the filibuster then, which was like 2009, I think, or early 2010. And, it's funny to me that the filibuster has continued to just, you know, uh, stop the Senate from really functioning. But yeah, and I was digging into the Federalist Papers. I read a lot from, Hamilton and, all of those
Madison.
guys to try to figure out if the founders wanted us to have the power to filibuster or not. But that too really kind of showed me that the political world was not like where I wanted to be right then.
And after that, you worked for the big law firm that you mentioned before. So, what made you decide to start your own practice and be your own boss?
I mean, it's kind of that, I was, I was always very passionate about entrepreneurs. And of course, I was an entrepreneur myself. When I was in the music industry prior to law school full time, I did everything I could to, that made money, so I set up soundscapes at churches. I taught lessons. I do classes at, small colleges. I play for other bands, so I kind of took that hustle, make things happen mentality to heart. And I guess I had this experience at King and Spalding where their business model is to hire on, or it was, I don't know what it is now, but it was at that point to promote people based on uh, seniority rather than merit. So that just didn't sit great with me. I really want, if I'm going to work my tail off for somebody, like I want results from that work, and I want to be treated differently from someone who's lazy and kind of, mooching off of that system, you know. But my supervisor pulled me aside one day and he said, "Hey, I see that you're really working hard, but this guy is in front of you in line and he's been here 15 years and he went to Harvard." So like he will be promoted next and we don't know when that will be, but it seems like you expect to get promoted at some point, and I'm just telling you that that's not going to happen.
Hmm.
So I was like, okay, so I would much rather, that the my results be more proportionately tied to my effort. And that's what I love about fitness and entrepreneurship and, music and everything, but if you want to make me miserable and depressed, like put me in a spot where it doesn't matter how hard or well I work or whatever, I'm going to get the same result every time. That will be maddening.
Yeah, and there's something about versatility of talent and independence. Because for someone like you, who is like a master of all trade, I mean, jack of all trade, master of all, it's hard for you to just stay in one, in one lane until someone moves you along because you're so used to mastering many areas. So I can see how you wouldn't fit into that one particular box and have to spend 15, 20 years before you move on to become a boss.
Yeah, and it's just, I need to see progression. It would drive me crazy if there was no progression. If I had to live, and listen, some people like are very different. Some people absolutely adore having the same exact day in, day out, year in, year out, like decade after decade. That's very attractive to a lot of people. And I love those types of people, like as necessary, if not more necessary, to the world and the functioning of our society than people like me. But to know thyself, I know that that would drive me utterly insane. So, that's I I put myself in a spot where I'm gonna thrive and be happy. There's some of these personality tests that you can do where it says, here's where you thrive, and here's like your work life. Here's who you are at work, and here's who you are naturally. And they'll like have two dots on the circle, right? So one dot is on the spectrum where you are at work, and one dot is on the spectrum who you are naturally. But mine were always like, after I started the law firm, it was the same spot, you know. So at work I was exactly who I was at home. It's the same person, which means that I'm not faking anything. I'm not putting on airs or acting like somebody else. I'm just being myself. So I aspire to always just be myself, and with my own limitations. That has limitations too. Like I get bored easily. So I need a little bit of chaos or I get bored. So
Do you have any song that reflects your work as an attorney?
any song that reflects my work as an attorney? Wow. No, I don't. But maybe that's the next one I need to write. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Then, apart from being this fitness buff, musician, business attorney, an attorney who has worked the government, private sector, and now having your home practice, you also wrote a best-selling book
Yeah.
called Business, Success, and Secrets.
Yep.
Tell us about your book and where we can get them.
Yeah, well, Amazon, everywhere online. Just type it in, Business Success Secrets. It's a toolkit. I co-authored it with I think 25 other writers. So we were all the threshold to be an author was that you had to have a business that pulled in at least $1 million a year, and had like 10 or more employees, and was established, right? Because we wanted all of the authors to be able to speak from a place of authority and success, right? And then we just we all wrote about our biggest lesson that we had learned that we wish we knew when we started. you know my lesson is just to be decisive. It's the oftentimes not making any decision and procrastinating on it is a far worse decision than like the wrong decision. So there's not really in business a right and a wrong decision, but it is bad for your business to not make a decision at all. And I think people get paralyzed in fear and worried about failure or whatever, so they just won't make a decision, and they'll do a bunch of BS that doesn't really push the needle and doesn't matter. And I get it, it's tempting. You feel very productive if you're like adjusting the commas on your WordPress website, but at the end of the day, that's not going to get you any more sales, really. Like it might help, sure, but like you need to spend your time and make it impactful. you know so yeah, that's what I wrote about. And yeah, it really got successful. I mean, it was number one in business books, that day, the release day. I think it was in March this year. So number one on Amazon, certainly, and also USA Today.
USA Today.
Yeah.
Congratulations,
Thanks.
and what you just said really makes a lot of sense. Indecision itself is a decision that is impactful.
Yes. Yeah. But it's that you are intentionally not intending the result.
Exactly.
So, you're going to have a result no matter what. You will have a result, but it's better if you decide what result you want and then go for that one.
Exactly. You're also a regular contributor to Forbes magazine and to Forbes.com. what does it feel like the first time you got published by Forbes?
I was really flattered, but it's kind of like we were talking about with music earlier. It was I at that point it was an article about buying my home, um, and it was like my dream home, and it was kind of for me at the time it was like pricey, it was expensive, and it was larger, and I was embarrassed and ashamed by my own success, if you can believe that. Because that, let me tell you a story, right? So if you have like the Honda crew, this is regurgitated from Arjon Robbins, who's a mentor of mine, but if you have a bunch of guys that only drive Hondas, right? Like they love that the Hondas are, reliable and they look cool and they're fast and, whatever. They always have four seats and they're super safe, right? What do you think happens when you are in this club and you drive up in like a brand new Mercedes? Like, I mean, seriously, what do you think could happen?
Your guys are going to pick on you. You're
Yeah,
going to feel like out of place.
right. Yeah. So, our biggest fear, I think, as human beings, being a social species, is to be outcasted from the people we know and love, from our tribe. So if you roll up there in a Mercedes, why on earth are you driving a Mercedes? It's expensive, repairs cost this much. It's, like maybe not as reliable or something, or it's German, it's not, Asian, or, whatever the problem is, they're going to reject you, And I felt that way because of, what I deemed to be what people would say to me. Nobody said that. I wasn't rejected by anybody. It was all just voices in the back of my head and lies. But, it was getting vulnerable about that that actually, got me placed originally onto Forbes articles. So, yeah, it's interesting, right? Because I thought I thought that was something to be ashamed of. And instead it was something to, that gave me more success.
Yeah. Yeah. In a nutshell, I think what you've been doing is that you've used your life experiences to edify other people, from your music to your articles to your book to everything you do. You have this altruistic um, um, you have this altruistic motive to make sure that even your struggles, you've used those to modify, to help other people. How did you develop this sense of public good? Was it something you developed because of your work, or was it just something that is innate and natural to you?
I think it's innate and natural to me. I think that it's natural to pretty much all people. Call me an optimist, but I truly believe that everybody is at their core good and, wants to help. I mean, there's psychos out there, but, the vast majority of human beings, I think, are good at their core. Um, and I think, I mean, I don't know where it started, but, I am enlivened, I am inspired by helping other people, and I have unlimited energy to help other people. I don't have unlimited energy to like work at King and Spalding like I did, where there's no I'm not impacting anybody really, and kind of staying in a corner at a cubicle desk. So, um, yeah, and it's important, I think, to step into that every day. One thing that I did that made a huge change for me was to go through this analysis. This is like this woman, Lee Hayward, and she's got and Sarah Kaki, but they have this whole thing that's like, I don't know, it's indescribable to me. I don't even want to try, but basically what we did is we analyzed all of my childhood heroes and why I looked up to them, and then we sort of meshed that all into words that describe, who we are, because what we admire most is who we are at our core, whether or not we're letting it out or not. And in doing that, in following those words every day, um, I just, everything ramped up, and success, went went way up. So I would highly recommend working with Lee Hayward and Sarah Kaki if you ever get a chance.
Thank you. And what would you say to that business person or the decision maker for a small business who's out there vacillating or undecisive about whether or not to hire an attorney like you?
I mean, you pick up the phone. I mean, we're not going to ding you for the call. I'm happy to waive the fee. Just, tell our office assistants that, you saw this podcast, and, I told you it would be a free call. So I'd be happy to speak with you one on one, and let's dive in, let's get you some solutions. I mean, I'm happy to work with pure startups, because that's the easy. It's easy to change things when you don't have a lot of money flowing in. But if you have a partnership agreement or a partnership itself, and you've got millions coming in and going out, a small micro adjustment could mean $50,000 easily. So it's hard to make those adjustments down the road. A lot of people are like, I don't need a lawyer because we're not big yet, but you do, and it's free to call us. So, there's no
And what's the phone number?
470-268-5234. Yeah.
Thank you. And you can also go to sparkslawpraxis.com. Again,
Sure.
sparkslawpraxis.com. Thank you, Jonathan, for coming into Legal Angle. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Awesome. Yeah. Such an honor, man. And, I've got so much respect for you, my friend. Yeah. I knew we were going to be friends when I saw you.
Likewise. Thank you. And for those of you either watching us or listening to this podcast, thank you again for spending your time with us. Until next time, stay safe.
Keep rocking, guys.
Yeah.